You just go through that basic
Oh,
chain of events.
so let's say I'm doing a study and I'm doing exercises and I'm getting pretty confident and I think, well, I've actually improved. And now the reason I do studies is so that I am more proficient at art and I can work on my projects better. So I'll say, well, now that I have done my studies, let me work on this project because that should be the main aspect I should be doing. Because studies are basically just preparations for the projects. But then when I try to work on the projects, just the idea of doing them will inca- will make me like anxious or like make me procrastinate. Um, and then I'll have a week where I wasn't really productive at all. I didn't get much drawing done. And then I will want to get back into the habit of drawing, and I will be spending some time getting just my pen on the screen. I will do these mindless doodles. And then when I've done these doodles, I'm thinking, well, I've been drawing, but I haven't actually done much, so I'll do the studies again. And then I get back into the cycle where, okay, now I'm doing doodles, now I'm doing studies, now I'm doing projects, now I'm doing doodles, now I'm doing studies. Now I want to do the project, um, but I never actually get to the project. It's just like a buffer.
Right.
Um,
So what's happening is, first off, you should know that this happens to everyone who's been drawing for a while. But what's happening here is you're at the intermediate stage, and this is like the jumping off point for you to get to the next level. So
mm,
this might not be intuitive based off of like how long you've spent studying, but what this like boils down to is just a fear of long-term commitment. So like a
yeah,
doodle, and that's why like when your cycle resets, that's why the first thing you go back to is those little doodles, is because it's the shortest amount of time commitment, and
yeah,
like low stress priority. There's no upper level thought. But what happens is you started taking your art seriously, you're doing studies, and you've gotten comfortable putting long amounts of hours into a study. Oh, I can do a 3 hour study, I can do a 5 hour. I'll spend a whole day drawing.
yeah,
But the issue is a project isn't like a just like a burst, like see how long you can go. Because you're what's happening in your brain, like on a brain chemistry level, is you're saying I can do things long term because in one session I did something for a while, but your brain still sees that as a sprint. When it
yeah,
comes to something that's a mental exercise, a project is something that requires your brain to shut off and start up again consistently over a long stretch of time. And you don't have a model for that yet when it comes to your art. That's it's
yeah,
not really how your brain is seeing art. So whenever you go into project mode of, oh, I need to plan this thing out, go through this experience, and then reset, and pick up where I left off on the next time, and you don't have like that certain end date because you're not used to planning like that. Your brain just gets stressed out. You start to prioritize other things. You try to
yeah,
use dopamine as a way to circumvent that, and then you just like fall off, and a week goes by, and you're like, what the hell happened? Um, but this
yeah,
really is just like a jumping off point. Like I said, like this is just something that people go through if they want to go to the next level. And a lot of it is like you're not like stupid or anything. A lot of it is a commitment issue. You have to really just be like, I'm going to do this project. I don't care how it turns out. Um, and what you're going to have to start doing now is taking notes and planning what that project actually looks like. This week, I'm going to get first off, the project's going to be this, this, and this. Here are my goals for this project. And then like you don't have to have the entire process like start to finish planned out, but like this week, I'm going to do this thing for this project, and just continually
yeah,
making those steps forward, and then making it so that quitting isn't an option. Because like
mm,
first off, naturally in projects, like you're gonna get to a point where you're like, this project is a bad idea. um but you're not on the production floor, you're not doing anything real, so I think the most important thing is just finishing like a long-term project and getting that
yeah,
experience under your belt. Um but yeah, I wouldn't I'd say the first thing that you should do is just first off commit to a project, and then make it so that quitting isn't an option, because you need that raw experience.
mm,
Because once you get like that first rep in, of like, I did a
Yeah.
long-term project, I planned this out and finish it, your brain immediately recontextualizes all the other studies you're doing, all the other doodles, because now they have a purpose. And you're like, oh, in this
I,
study, I realized that I was getting this value out of this thing, and then you realize like the stuff that you weren't focusing on in your studies, and it just it creates a new lens for the other stuff that you're doing. When once you're
mm,
able to switch to that long term thought processing.
because I've had the same issue in school, for example, like let's say, oh, I have to do homework. I'll go home and I'll do the homework easy, right? Well, I'll have to study. Okay, that's a bit harder, but I'll get to studying. But once I get an essay, I have to write an essay. I will not do that at all, like the last minute. And I've never finished like an essay not like in day before. I've always only done it when it was absolutely necessary, and I procrastinated on it till max. Um, so this is like a definitely a habit of mine, or like a behavior pattern that's not solely connected to art, but it's like just a behavior I exude currently,
Right.
which is like, oh, okay, I just have to get out of it, you know. But you're probably right. But I plan to just work my project mindset a bit into the studies. So, because I don't know if I actually, because it feels hard
What I'm
to
saying
actually
is
do
you
the projects.
probably don't have a project mindset.
No,
Like
I
that's
don't.
probably something you still have to build.
Yeah.
Like that's why people procrastinate is because they're just treating the project like a marathon. They're like, "Oh, this is a thing that I'll just oh, I know the time frame is longer, but they're just seeing it as I have more time to do this sprint in one session." Like people don't know how to switch to a long-term project mindset. They don't have a framework for that. So it's just, "Oh, I'll put it off, I'll put it off. Oh shit, I don't have a choice. Let me do it all in one night." And then they still get to treat that thing as a sprint. And then they say, "Oh, I can do long-term projects." Um, like I said,
Well,
you really have to switch your brain around. Go ahead.
do you feel like it's I should just try to hard force it, or is there a method that you think would work better?
I think um I think if you're complete I have two forms of advice on this. The first one is if you're completely lost and you have no framework whatsoever, I think the best piece of advice, the best thing you can do is just start. And obviously
Mm,
track what you're doing. But like if you have no clue on where to even go, just do it stupidly. And you'll at least learn something, and then you'll have like a
okay.
list of things that you messed up that you know you need to improve on. Um, but more importantly than that, and this is why it's the advice that I give all the time, no matter what it is, uh, take notes. When it comes to doing a long term project, as you found out as a limitation of your brain and being, meat that's being electrocuted regularly,
Hmm.
your brain doesn't want to do something long term. When it starts something, it wants to do it in a session and then stop and then go on to the next task. It works better with your dopamine cycle. But with a long-term project, you need to actually write out what it is you're doing, and treat the project as a schedule. If you have a list of tasks you need to get done, it's way easier for your brain to organize that and go into a start and stop cycle. But not just
Mm.
it's not a suggestion, not of like oh, this might help. Like I think core to any good project is actually writing out what your steps are and your time frame for completing those tasks. There's actually a term that I learned recently because I've been doing like marketing homework stuff for obvious reasons. Um, OKR. So there's a marketing term called OKRs, objectives and key results, and it's just fancy jargon for quantitative measurement. So I'm gonna get this done by this week. Okay, what does that actually mean? What how much work are you getting done? What does that work consist of? And like how much of the project is that? And like actually defining what every little micro step means. And obviously, you don't have to go like overkill. Like if it's your first project and you're like, I want to make a comic book. Okay, well then let's just like start making panels or like something very simple. But I think
Yeah.
in terms of like warming your brain up to doing something long term, like my comic book is going to be about this is just me making something at random. 100
Yeah.
pages. Week one. What's going to be the focus? Do I want to focus on the story? Okay, how much of the story am I getting done? What does 50% of the story actually look like? Setting a benchmark for that and completing it. If you're working on panels, if you want to just focus on the artwork, I'm gonna get 5 panels done. Okay, what does getting 5 panels done mean? Is that just the line art? Is that the line art and like a grayscale pass? Are you doing line art all the way to color? Like, what does 5 panels actually look like? How many of those panels are we getting done a week? After a month of doing 5 panels, how close am I to the end result? And just like really quantifying and getting down to that, so that like whenever you have like this moment where like your brain like time skips and you're like, oh crap, what did I actually get done this week? You objectively have like, oh, I'm still fine. I have like this much of the project done, and I have this much that I can get done for next week. And like I said, it's going to be really messy in the beginning. You're probably going to make a lot of mistakes and do stupid measurements. But then you'll know that those measurements are stupid and you can refine the process as you move forward. And that's why I think it's so important to make it so that you're not allowed to quit whatever the project you're working on is. Make a really bad project. And as long as you're note
Okay.
taking and setting those OKRs, you'll be fine.
Okay, I'll do that next week. This week, I
Awesome.
mean. Okay.